we bought land basically because I thought that the world was going to end in 2015. A little weird. There was like this thing about blood moons, and I went a little crazy. And I've since brought it back a little bit. I will say I was only like 5 years early, where everybody thought that the world was going to end in 2020. So I wasn't that far off.
Welcome to the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast, the show where you learn how to plan, build, and live the tiny lifestyle. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, and this is episode 274 with Beau Brotherton. Beau and Kelly are a full-time family building a Texas homestead. They are a family with 5 kids living in a tiny house that is just over 800 square feet. And we really just scratched the surface of their really cool lifestyle in this interview. But if you are interested in homesteading, in buying raw land, doing a shed to tiny house conversion, this episode is for you because Beau just has so much info and he's so thoughtful about it. So in this conversation, we dive into kind of the start of their project, what the land was like when they first bought it, what they had to do, and why they chose a shed conversion. It's a really great conversation, and I hope you stick around. I asked John and Finn Kernahan of United Tiny House Association what they love about their precision temp hot water heaters, and here's what they told me.
Hey, Ethan, this is John and Finn Kernahan with United Tiny House Association.
We organize Tiny House Festival.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
First and foremost.
We have a total of 3 precision temp on-demand hot water heaters. The thing we really like about these, and folks know this, I think they picked this up on Finn and I, if we don't like something, you'll never hear us talk about it. So the 2 things we noticed that we noticed and experienced immediately, they took painstaking effort to make sure that it was done right and installed. And so that was pretty cool right there. The other thing is the continuous on-demand hot water that just ran forever without any fluctuations or anything. I can't imagine an application, especially in our environment and our lifestyle of being the nomad, transportable, mobile, tiny lifestyle where one of these units aren't good to use.
Right now, Precision Temp is offering $100 off any unit plus free shipping when you use the coupon code THLP. So head over to precisiontemp.com and use the coupon code THLP at checkout for $100 off any unit. That's PRECISION temp.com, coupon code THLP. Thank you so much to Precision Temp for sponsoring our show. All right, I am here with Beau Brotherton. Beau and Kelly are a full-time family building a Texas homestead from scratch. They are 5 years into their adventure of transforming 7 acres of raw land into a place that is sustainable, regenerative, and keeps a little bit of wild left for their 5 kids. They sold everything they owned to move from the Houston suburbs to just outside of Austin, and it's like a whole new world. Instead of traditional home, they have converted a shed into a debt-free house along with raising chickens, Idaho pasture pigs, and Jersey milk cow. They have documented all of it on their Homesteading YouTube channel and podcast. Beau Brotherton, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ethan. I appreciate it, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So, wow, 7 people living in 800 square feet. How is that? You've been doing it now for several years, so you must be well practiced at it.
Yeah, I mean, we bought our land in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go through marriage counseling to in that process of trying to convince my wife to sell everything we own and live in a tent on our 7 acres. And we ended up settling to on the shed to house conversion.
Okay.
And just through that process from then in 2018 was whenever we actually broke ground and got the shed delivered.
Okay.
And it's been a fun ride. We actually only had 4 kids then. Actually, the whole thing started, we only had 3 kids. So we actually started the Shed to House Facebook group and the YouTube channel, and we only had 3 kids.
Okay.
And with the 4th one, we were like, well, we've already started this. Maybe let's make it the shed just a little bit bigger. And then with number 5, we're like, hey, we're pros. We got this.
Yeah. So maybe paint a picture for me. Like, what was on this land? Like, what was it like when you first closed on it?
oak and cedar trees.
Okay.
That's it. There was a little water hole in the back.
So it was like forest.
So there was nothing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's about 60% wooded is what I say.
Okay.
This was very like, it's very unloved, degraded.
Okay.
Central Texas land. Not quite West Texas, but pretty dry.
Okay. And did you have to, like, were there structures that needed to be demolished, or was it just a matter of like cutting down some trees, or were you, like, what was your next step?
Yeah. So the first step was, I actually have a video on our YouTube channel of us. I got some like 100-foot long rope.
Okay.
Or maybe it was like 200-foot long rope. And we were out there. It was just the same as it is now right now, like 105 degrees here in Texas.
Yeah.
And I used that as our measuring tape to go from where our water line meter was going to be.
Yep.
And how far that was going to be. And then also for our electric. So that was the first two things is running. Yeah. The first two things was no, we had to get a guy in to do the land clearing. So I did kind of multiple things all at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
First thing we did was measure how much length we were going to need to go from where our water was going to be to the house. Because we can't have a water well here.
Okay.
Because the shallowest aquifer to get clean water is like 900 feet.
Oh, damn.
I always say the joke that Bruce Willis had to go 800 feet to break up a meteor in the sky, and I have to go 900 feet just to get
for
water.
Clean water.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so how do you get your water?
It's just municipal water.
Okay.
It's not our favorite, but we also have about almost 6,000 gallons of rainwater.
Nice.
Which we do use for the animals, some irrigation, and just like at the moment, it's just preparedness, just in case something really bad happens that we have some backup water.
So it seems like pretty quickly you shifted to like, hey, we need a place to live, we need shelter. Can you talk about why a shed, why you went that route?
Yeah, so I know that you're the tiny house guy. So I assume that it's do you focus mostly on tiny house on wheels, or do you like all small structures?
I'm agnostic. I love them all. I mean, I would say that the majority of my guests are living in, that I talk to are tiny house on wheels, but I've had shed conversions, buses, vans, ambulances, sailboats, tree houses, like you name it. Even somebody who turned a giant potato into an Airbnb house. So,
Whoa.
To me, like it's living small. That is what I'm curious about and that I'm interested in. And I'm always just fascinated by what choices people make to get there. Like whatever vessel, whatever shell, you chose. So you went with a shed. And so I'm like, why? Talk me through that decision-making process. Because ultimately my goal is like, there's somebody listening right now, I guarantee it, who's like, I want a homestead. I want to buy raw land. So they're like, well, how did this guy do it? Why a shed?
You bet. So what we call in the Shed to House Facebook group is small house, big land living. So that was the overarching thought is, so we were living in the suburbs of Houston, just outside of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Katy, Texas. Very like just as suburb as you can get. And it just kept on growing.
Okay.
We had within like a 10-minute drive, we had a Costco, a Whole Foods, a Sprouts, and then a Trader Joe's, like every single kind of like convenience you could ever think of.
Mm-hmm.
And we bought land basically because I thought that the world was going to end in 2015. A little weird. There was like this thing about blood moons, and I went a little crazy. And I've since brought it back a little bit. I will say I was only like 5 years early, where everybody thought that the world was going to end in 2020. So I wasn't that far off.
Yeah.
But mainly my wife Kelly and I, we started talking, and she was totally fine with moving onto our property.
Okay.
We were very big on, being debt free. Dave Ramsey. We didn't have any debt except for our suburban home.
Okay.
Just we actually even went a little bit more intense. We had a 20-year mortgage.
Okay.
So we didn't even sign up for the 30-year. We wanted to get out of debt
Right.
as fast as we could. And so what Kelly told me was, hey, I'm totally fine with us selling everything that we have, leaving all of our conveniences and living in the woods.
Okay.
She said her number one priority and ask is that we were able to do it debt free.
Okay.
So that was basically me, the person that, drove my marriage into marriage counseling because I wanted to I wanted a homestead. That was the dream.
Yeah.
I wanted to do this life. The shed to house is not the final destination for us. It's just the vehicle that got us from the suburbs to our homestead. The homesteading, growing our own food, having our kids have that wild and free life. That is the destination. So I had to figure out how I can do this debt free.
Okay.
So we looked at tiny houses on wheels. We looked at, the bus thing. We looked at barn dominiums, of course.
Yeah.
We looked at mobile homes, manufactured homes, like everything that there is of alternative living.
Okay.
We looked at that because we knew we weren't going to build a traditional home debt free. That was going to be impossible.
Okay.
RV. We even thought about doing an RV.
Yep.
So another stipulation once we got, debt free, another thing my wife started saying was, hey, I'm totally fine like traveling and doing the RV thing, but I want to have a home to come home to. So she didn't want to do RV life and traveling and then have to come back to our property and we live in the RV. She didn't want that.
Right.
So I needed to figure out a way to be able to build my wife, my family a home that stayed there. So honestly, tiny house on wheels for me, the restrictions of how tiny that has to be and maybe things are different back then. It was like, hey, you can do a tiny house on wheels, but probably you're going to move it maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Things might have gotten better since 2015, but the research that I was doing is like, hey, this is not an RV. There's a reason why they build an RV the way that they do. And one reason why they, break constantly. Like, if you've ever meet families that are doing RV full time, a lot of the times the man, the husband, they are mechanic. They are forced to be a mechanic.
Right.
Because you have to repair them all the time. And that's just not me, man.
Yeah.
I'm the video geek that wanted to be a wannabe farmer. And so I knew that all of those, I just started narrowing all those things down.
Yeah.
We looked into barn dominiums and it was going to be too expensive for us to do a barn dominium.
And actually, I'm looking for someone to interview about barn dominiums because I'm fascinated by them. But can you explain what a barn dominium is?
For sure, it really can be anything. Honestly, I mean, you can have a barn dominium that is 600 square feet. I've seen we get some barn dominiums in our Facebook group, and I allow it.
Okay,
because I try to keep it a little bit focused on that small house.
Fair.
If I ever see something that's like 3,000 square foot, I'm like, hey man, this is not the group.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't keep it on focus. So, I mean, a barn dominium at the time of 2015 was really this new thing. And it was that, hey, this is a way to get like we're talking 1,500 square foot to 2,000 square foot home. Usually they're just going to be a rectangle. It was an easy way to get a roof over your head fast and affordable.
Yeah.
And be able to live on land. Then they started getting super, what my wife calls bougie. Like, people started doing it and they're insane. I mean, and honestly now after 2020, we have friends here that they were going to do a barn dominium and they ended up going back to a stick built home because metal was so expensive at that time.
Right.
So I think they built in like 2021. So really a barn dominium, they say a barn. So it's like a condominium, play on words. It's like a barn, like if you just build like a big old shop, like a metal shop,
Like a metal
and what
building.
people would do. Yeah. Now we have friends here in our small town,
Mhm.
and they, I think, had like an 1,100 square foot shop that they wanted to move on to their parents' place.
Mhm.
And their parents were like, hey, I got this shop. Maybe you could turn it into a house. And whenever we met them, all we had was our main shed to house. And it wasn't that much different, the living situation between the two. It was a little bit bigger than what we had.
Yeah.
But usually a barn dominium is going to be on a slab. Like you're going to actually pour a concrete slab and it's going to be built there.
Yeah.
And so does that answer the question about the barn dominium part?
Yeah, totally. I love it.
Okay. So I think I got a quote just for the shell of the barn dominium. It was going to be about $60,000.
Okay.
And we just ended up saying, you know what? Let's keep on looking. I like to have all the options. We're going to keep on looking for that.
Yep.
And I think there was one day I was just driving, and back here in Texas, if you drive in rural roads, you're going to see these lots. It looks like a used car lot.
Yeah.
And it's just these lots of all of these sheds
Yep.
all over the place. Like, and that we ended up finding this one lot, and they actually finished them out. So you're looking at these sheds on a lot.
Yep.
And I was like, let me just stop by and just looked at it. Because I think it had like a sign that said cabin.
Okay.
And I walked in, and I was able to walk in. I have it was like one of our biggest, like in the beginning, our YouTube channel that got some attention. And we saw, I think it was like a 16 by 40. And it had a main bedroom. It actually had central air and heat. So it was designed pretty well. And it had a little kitchen and just a little sleeping loft for kids. And
okay,
I was like, this is really cool. And then next time we were driving through there, I brought my whole family. I was like, hey, Kelly, I need you to look at this place.
Yeah.
And she walked in and she's like, okay, this is not the way that I would design it. But she was able to see the possibility of how to make it work.
Right. Like I could live there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so basically what this is think of a barn dominium kind of, or a shed. Like if it's just a shed that you would, have in the back of your house, like if you had like a bigger suburban home and you just wanted some extra storage space or a little shop, it's just a typical wood built shed.
Yep.
And you're able to finish it out. So, and it comes with skid, like it's 16-inch on center. So it's built really well.
Yep. And
then they got like big, thick runners for the flooring. And then you just put the foundation typically on just cinder blocks.
Okay.
It's similar to a mobile home.
Okay.
Now, the reason we get a lot of questions, well, why don't you just build a mobile home? Because a lot of the times, yes, you can get a more square footage for cheaper with a mobile home. And the reason why we didn't go with a mobile home was because it all comes finished.
Yep.
So no matter what, you're going to get mobile home finishes for that cheaper price.
Right.
So the flooring's going to be, not good. The kitchens, the appliances, maybe they've gotten better since then again, but just the countertops, everything. And that wasn't something that
you wanted to finish this out yourself.
We did.
And make it nicer.
Exactly. And I'll be fully transparent. And I've always said this.
Yeah.
I also at that time was a YouTuber. I wanted to, at our old channel was Better Together Life. And so we make all of our, income from home. We homeschool our kids. So we want to do everything together.
Yeah.
And that was finding a way to be able to create content. This shed to house, I saw that it was a way to be able to get some excitement and do something different. And I knew that I was going to have to put my money where my mouth is and be able to live in it. And we actually started the process, and we only thought we were going to live in our main shed to house for about maybe 2 to 3 years. And it was just going to be a transition for us.
Yep.
And we just fell in love with this property. We fell in love with the house, and we've been in there ever since. So yeah.
That's awesome. Can I ask how long? I know that you've done you've done additions, you've kind of bumped out on both sides, but like how long and how much did that initial build out, that like, let's get shelter, let's get living in there. Like, do you remember, do you have a sense of how long and how much that cost for you?
I do. I have it on my website. Just if you want like the whole breakdown, it's Better Together Homestead. Yeah. bettertogetherhomestead.com/report. And so now this of course is pre 2020 pricing. So everything's like, I have no idea. So I mean, add 20, 50%. I don't know. Double. I have no clue of what it would cost now.
Yep.
So we got the shed delivered, I think it was in July of 2018. And then we also, we moved in November of that year, 2018.
All right.
And so, we were living at my wife's parents' house in, North Dallas. So we were about 3.5 hours away. So it was a long commute going back and forth. And I
work on it.
Yeah. And I actually lived in there for the last 6 weeks before leading up. We were busting at the seams at at my in-laws' place. And we were like, we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
We actually moved in with that. We moved in and we had drywall. It wasn't painted. We had drywall. We had our ceiling. We had running water, no hot water, and no kitchen. So all of that, but we did have AC. We had heat and AC.
Okay.
So we were able to like live there. We roughed it. We didn't have hot water for the first 2 weeks, but then we got hot water and then we got a stove. We had electricity, so that was good. I want to say, and I can find it. I should have had this ready.
That's all good.
I want to say, now, I think it's probably $80,000 all in, but that also includes our, trenching underground electric for 200 feet, trenching 1-inch PEX for our main water line. That include an $8,000 septic tank.
Yeah.
These are things that if you're going to put a main house there, you really can't change those costs.
Yep.
And that also included 2 giant porches. So our house is 16 by 48. That's just a house.
Okay.
Then on the front, we have a 12-foot by 48 front porch. And then on the back, we have a 10-foot by 48 back porch. So we have...
That's huge.
Yeah, we have
outdoor
more
living.
Exactly. And so I think that with hiring a buddy as a contractor who was a better builder than I was to help me. So basically, I was his assistant for most of the stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'd never done anything like this before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I had a little bit of extra income whenever we sold our main house. And I just gave it all to him to say like, hey, I want to do this. Help me figure out how to do this so I don't have a mortgage. And so I think the porches was like $11,000.
Okay.
Now we did also have some sponsorships. Like we got Mr. Cool to sponsor our mini splits.
Nice.
There was another company that sponsored some of the stuff, like our PEX water line.
Yeah.
So it could have gone even more. It's hard to like remember everything.
Sure. I love to cook in my tiny house kitchen, but I don't always love to clean up. And one of my big concerns with going tiny was losing the convenience of a dishwasher. That's why I'm so excited to share today's sponsor with you, the Fotile 2-in-1 in-sink dishwasher. It's a dishwasher built into a sink, and it's perfect for tiny house living. This innovative appliance is perfect for modern living in compact spaces. With its efficient design, it saves lower cabinet space and fits perfectly into a standard 36-inch cabinet base, making it ideal for tiny homes. But it's not just about saving space, it's about saving time and water too. The Fotile 2-in-1 in-sink dishwasher offers a quick wash cycle of just 20 minutes, getting your dishes clean in no time. 45-minute standard and 80-minute intensive washes are also available. Plus, it saves nearly 50% of the water a regular dishwasher would consume. With its ergonomic top-loading design, you don't need to bend over like you would with a traditional dishwasher, making it perfect for small kitchens. When it comes to cleanliness, the Fotile 2-in-1 in-sink dishwasher doesn't disappoint. With 5 standard washing and rinsing cycles and a 360-degree cleaning system, it eliminates 99.99% of E. coli and other common bacteria from your dishes, promoting a healthy kitchen environment. Are you worried about installation? Don't be. Fotile provides a comprehensive DIY installation tutorial online, and they are offering Tiny House Lifestyle podcast listeners a special extended 5-year limited warranty. There are over 30 million families around the world enjoying Fotile's full range of cooktops, ovens, range hoods, and in-sink dishwashers. They've channeled 20 years of experience and expertise into these innovative compact dishwashers. This amazing dishwasher has a rating of 4.7 out of 5 on Lowe's.com. Visit us.fotileglobal.com/THLP to learn more and purchase your Fotile 2-in-1 in-sink dishwasher today. That's us.fotileglobal.com/THLP. That link will be in the show notes too. Upgrade your tiny home kitchen with Fotile and experience the convenience of modern living in a compact space.
The hard thing to figure out is like how much it would cost now, and then how much money you would be able to save if you really wanted to rough it. Because that was my expectation.
Right.
We were going to rough it. Like if my wife was saying she only wanted to be in there for 3 years as a transitional home, but then she wanted to get like the best flooring, and then she wanted to get like this really nice IKEA kitchen. And so every time she wanted to spend some extra money, I was like, okay, honey, this is totally fine. Just letting you know, this lengthens the time that we need to stay in this space before we can upgrade to something bigger. Yeah. And she was totally fine. She built a home that she loves.
Well, that's awesome. And I, just a quick Google search, $80,000 in 2018 dollars today, says it's worth about $100,000 today, just inflation. But I do know that the cost of building materials has gone up, and also the wages that you have to pay a contractor have gone up. I don't know, like at least in my area, and I'm in Vermont, it's really hard to get a contractor here. And, we just had all that flooding. So there's going to be a lot of houses a lot of people who are really in need for contractors. But I think that the shed path is a really good one for someone who needs to do a stationary tiny house and they want to do it for cheaper, because frankly, like a shed isn't going to get marked up like a tiny house shell would get marked up. And it's also not on a trailer, and trailers cost, tiny house trailers are now like $8,000. So like, especially if you are able to do your own foundation work, did you do sonotubes, or did you do like poured footings, or how did you prepare the ground?
No, so we have it's a concrete pad, and the first one we did.
Yeah.
Well, no, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should not a concrete pad. It's a gravel pad.
Okay.
So whenever we got the land cleared, and I would do things different.
Yeah.
I wanted to do like a forestry mulcher to really feed the soil and all that. And I did the easy button, and I hired a country boy with a big old dozer just to plow out the home site.
Yeah.
And I'm still paying for it because it's still the area, the grass around my property, around the home site, it still hasn't recovered. So
wow,
I shouldn't have done that, but it made it happen fast, and that's what our family needed. So that same guy ended up doing a gravel pad, and it's not my favorite at all. This guy didn't know what he was doing, unfortunately, and I'm always a guinea pig for this stuff because people. And so I'm able to say, hey, a lot of my YouTube channel is mistakes to avoid.
Yeah,
because I've made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Then whenever we did the pad for our studio, I was able to do it way better. So our main house, it is high off the ground. So it's a little bit too high. And actually, what if I would have done it with the concrete tubes, the footers, we've learned since then that our ground shifts crazy. Like it's some crazy sand.
Yep.
About the top 6 to 12 inches. And so our neighbors did the concrete tubes, and they're having to redo their house, re-level it. So I wish I could give expert opinion and recommendations. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough just to say not just to do a concrete pad.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like if I would have done that, then it would have alleviated a lot of headaches. You could still have the crawl space.
Yeah.
But having that concrete foundation, and I would say that if you were going to do a tiny house on wheels or an RV, it's pretty nice to have that concrete pad just to rely on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The first like 8 years with my tiny house where it was just parked right on a lawn somewhere. And we get crazy frost, freeze thaw cycles in the spring. And so like, I remember there was one day that I went to the house and like all around it was like mud, but the ground under the house was still frozen because the house was like insulating the ground. And like all this water had pooled up and I was just like there in my muck boots, like digging a trench with a shovel, like to like let the mud water drain. And like, yeah, I'm like the last person you need to like convince about the importance of putting a foundation down under your house.
Exactly. Yeah. Our grandparents told us those stories our entire life. And, you get to the point where you're about to do it and you're like, we'll be fine. It'll be okay. We'll just, we'll
figure it out.
Yeah. We'll just put it on top of dirt. I would recommend not doing a shed to house on just top of dirt. At least do some kind of
on just dirt.
Yeah. Now we're in Texas, so it's a completely different. We don't have the freezing like y'all do.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to go deep here for a foundation.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you're a real advocate for people leaving suburbia and kind of, trading in that suburban lifestyle for more land and less house potentially. So can you talk about that philosophy and kind of what the benefits have been for you and your family?
For sure. I mean, we think of it as the less stress, more freedom life. And not to say that it's no stress, because I mean, I feel like I'm 41 years old and I've learned that, hey, I get stressed out a little bit more often than I want to. And that's my own issues. But so it's not a less stress life, but I mean, it's not a no stress life, but it is a less stress life. Like, and I hate to say it, like, I don't want to beat but 2020 was kind of stressful for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were locked in their homes.
Yep.
Were told what they can and can't do. It wasn't like that for us. If you were on some land and you had kids, like, they had that freedom where they could go out and play outside and not have to worry about a lot of that. If you were growing your own food, that was part of, you didn't have to worry about some of those issues of shortages at the grocery store. If you, like all of those things. Yeah. And if you had, we don't have like solar or we do have our rainwater. So we're not off the grid. That would be a next step for us to be able to figure out.
Okay.
But that's for us. Honestly, the biggest thing for me being such an advocate of selling everything you have, if this is a dream that you want to do, if it's a dream to someday homestead, then a lot of people comment on our YouTube channel of, hey, we love your channel because I'm able to live my life through you. I'm able to live all my dreams through what you're doing. If I only was younger, I wish I would have done what you're doing now. A lot of people also say, this is our plan to do this whenever our kids get older, or this is our plan to do this whenever our kids, graduate from high school. They're like, they just come up with all of these excuses of like, hey, I would love to do this, but yada, yada, yada.
Right.
And that just ticks me off. I'm like, man, that's sad. It's a bummer. Like, you're going to die and you're going to live with so many regrets. And I think I heard Gary V once say it, Gary Vaynerchuk, of like, that's his main thing in life, is to live with no regrets.
Right.
And I totally agree with that. Another guy interviewed me for a book and he said, hey, what would you tell your 20-year-old self if you could? I was like, I wouldn't tell him anything. Like, why would you? Like, you're doing it wrong if you have to go back in time to tell your 20-year-old self, because everything's going to change.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have a completely different life, a completely different family, completely different kids, like all of that. Like, I truly believe in that weird, that, I don't know, like the whole butterfly effect. I'm like, no. Like, build your life, what you're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
Bloom wherever you're planted and figure out how to not try to pull down people down from the mountain. Just go climb your own mountain.
Yep.
And I love one-liners. So that's my thought is, if it's a dream that you have to someday homestead, or if you want to go full-time RV and see the country, if you want to go live out of backpacks and plane rides and see the entire planet, like, do that.
Yep.
Like, why wait?
Yeah.
You're another buddy of mine said that the American dream is to work your entire life so that you can save up enough money so that you can go and take that big trip whenever you retire and climb that Hawaiian mountain.
Yeah.
But yet by the time you retire, your knees are too old and you can't make the trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he told me that whenever we still lived in suburbia, and it just blew my mind. I was like, yeah, man, no, we're doing it. Now, I will also say it's a lot easier to make that switch from the city to the homestead.
Yep.
If you have kids, do it when they're young.
Yeah.
Because they can't argue with you whenever they're like, 5, 6, 7 years old.
Oh, I think they can.
Okay, tell me that you have stories. Tell me about that.
I mean, I don't have kids myself, but I definitely see my friends 5 and 6 year olds are like saying like, no, but I know what you're saying. Like, they don't quite have as much of an opinion about like where we're living, that you might just be like, yeah, we're going in the car and here we are at our new home.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I did it differently. I really sold it. I was like, we bought the land in 2015. I'm a very dramatic guy. So I think I really made it a cool thing for our kids. We bought the land in 2015, and we had 3 years before we actually moved here. So there was time to be able to take them up here for camping trips and really get that excitement going. And I remember there was one camping trip we were there. We walked to the back. There was like this little water hole pond, not even a real pond.
Yeah.
But I would tell my boys, I was like, can y'all believe that someday this big piece of land is going to be your backyard? Like, this is going to be your playground. This is going to be awesome.
Nice.
And really just trying to sell it. Yes. Once we ended up getting here, and it was funny because some of our family would come and visit, and they would call their house a tiny house.
Yeah.
And my oldest son at that time was probably 8 years old. And he got really offended that, people would call it a tiny house. Like, he had this weird thought in his, he didn't understand that tiny house was like this cool trending thing for adults. He was like, someone's insulting my home. Like, no. And over time, they've been able to kind of understand that. And also we've said like, hey, you can have anything you want. You just can't have everything that you want.
Yep.
So if you want, we can go ahead and we can move back to suburbia, or we can, dad can go and get a full-time job and you won't see me, or we can send you to government, public school, and we can have these different, discussions of what you want to do and what you don't want.
Yeah.
But we feel like this is going to be the best living situation for all of us until that time. And probably I will say that time has come for our kids at the moment.
Oh yeah.
We're planning the next step for probably a bigger home.
Okay.
Because our kid is our oldest is he's as tall as I am now. He's 5'9", and his head is hitting the top of his room in his sleeping loft. And I did not think that he was going to grow like 13 inches in 18 months.
Wow.
So yeah. So it's all a story and all
Yeah.
I also think that that's a great thing. Like
Totally.
build your tiny house, even especially if it's a tiny house on wheels.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's way cool because you can move it
Mm-hmm.
to a different part of a property and you
Yep.
can do an Airbnb.
Yep.
I think that even if it's going to be a transitional home, it's totally worth it.
So why not like, get another small shed and turn that into your oldest son's kind of room, a separate pod on the property.
We've discussed it.
Yeah.
We've discussed a lot of options. We've discussed, hey, maybe we'll just, here I'm in our shed to studio right now. But like, well, let's just put our big boys in here.
Mm-hmm.
And this will be like their killer, 13-year-old boy pad.
Yeah.
And we can even just connect it with a hallway or something like that. We've thought of a lot of things. And I would say for many families, that is a perfect idea. For my wife and I,
Mm-hmm.
having our 12 and 13-year-old boys under our roof is just a part of that parenting process that we want to still. I've been a 13-year-old boy and I completely understand that if I had my own place, I might burn it down.
Fair.
Like I don't there's so many things. So being able to, I don't know, maybe we're micromanaging our parenting a little bit, but we feel like if that's the thing that our kids are mad at, then hey, at least they'll know how to build stuff by the time they're 18 and then they can build their own home.
There you go.
If they were like 16 or 17, I would say yes, that would be the time to go ahead and transition them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we're still thinking about that. We haven't broke ground on the new house.
Okay.
But yeah, there's lots of, and there are lots of options for shed to houses. Like we could just get another one and connect them, or get another one and have some sort of, compound where you have a common patio space.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, one of the ideas that my wife is coming up with is doing 2 larger shed to houses. And then have you ever heard of a dog trot run?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. And like connecting them with some sort of outdoor space where we have a big kitchen and living area on one side.
Right.
And then on the other side, having all the living spaces.
Nice. So it sounds like that you haven't fully decided yet, but it sounds like you and your wife have like a really collaborative process. You really talk things through to kind of figure out what's going to work for each next step.
Yes. Yeah. I love coming up with all the options and all the ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife is very slow to make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically have said, hey, I'll come up with as many ideas as you want, but then it's going to be your home that I want you to it was basically the main shed to house it was kind of like me saying, hey, this is the best idea
mm-hmm.
for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I wanted her to make the home with whatever she wanted inside the house. So yeah, for this next house, it's definitely going to be up to her for sure.
Nice.
I want her to be super duper happy. That way, no matter, I will say this. I think that's the other thing. I think that as a family, shed to houses, you probably are understanding of this, of anything that is above the ground is extremely loud inside of the house. Like, so having 5 kids run up and down the house jumping, it's just, and especially because how high our building is.
Yeah.
It just echoes the crawl space, just everything echoes. And we have spray foam insulation and it's still incredibly loud.
Yeah.
So we're ready for something on that concrete foundation.
Okay.
We're ready to have to say, hey, kids, do jumping jacks and it not
over there
shake everything and be very loud.
Yeah. How do you balance your time between, taking care of the homestead? You've got animals, you've got, lawn to mow, whatever chores you have there. And, the time that you spend, earning a living, doing your YouTube channel, doing the podcast and all that.
It's a little different for us. So basically here in Texas, this is kind of like our winter a little bit.
Okay.
Like for you guys, y'all probably shut all of your outside stuff down in the winter. There's very little things you can do whenever it's, 10 degrees below or whenever it's freezing out.
Yeah.
For us, it's very little things that we can do whenever it's, a heat index of 115.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's like you die. So,
Right.
So in the summer, it's a lot of things like this. We do a lot of more indoor things.
Okay.
We do a lot, we watch some movies. We don't have cable or anything like that, but we design in our place where we have a projector screen that comes down in the middle of our living room area. And then we shoot a projector across so that we can set up a movie. And when the movie's done, we just bring the screen up and then you don't even notice it anymore. So
nice.
It's like, so the kids know when the screen is down, you can watch a show. When the screen is up, you gotta play a board game or something.
Yep.
So it's less of the working outside around this time. But a typical day is actually, we just now did a day in the life video on our channel.
Nice.
And it kind of said it a lot. So at the moment, we have a 1-year-old and she's still not sleeping through the night. So I let Kelly sleep in the mornings. And then typically we do the farm chores. And I don't actually get out here to the studio to work until usually probably 11 o'clock in the morning, which is very late for me.
Yeah.
I hate that. Like I'm an early riser.
Guy.
I love to, I love to wake up at 4:30 in the morning with my cup of coffee, with everybody being asleep and everything just nice and dark, and get, all the work done before anybody wakes up. It's not that. So at the moment it is a typical try to make money is between usually 11 to 5 p.m. And then if I ever have a project that needs a little bit more editing, then sometimes I'll work a little bit later. But on non-summer days, we're outside the entire day. So spring, fall, even winter here in Texas, we are outside. We are playing on the porches. We are outside working on projects together as a family, making new paddocks for the animals, moving the cows, rotating them, going outside and fishing like on our new pond. Like that's the whole point is we've found a way to be able to monetize our life through everything that we do. It's a little bit less private, but it's the trade-off that we want to be able to take and be able to share what we're doing and hopefully help some people do the same. Nice.
Well, tell me about, what you do online. Where can people find you? What kind of stuff do you put out there? And
Yeah, the main thing is our YouTube channel.
Okay.
It's Better Together Homestead.
Okay.
We also have our Shed to House Facebook group.
Okay.
And I'm definitely in there a little bit more as an admin, but definitely if you're interested in this, and even if it's not, it's we in our Facebook group, it is portable alternative structures, livable structures. So like any kind of it's a little bit less tiny house on wheels stuff, but we have a lot of mostly shed to houses, but some barn dominiums.
Yeah. Some
people that just convert like an old, building on their property.
Yeah.
Just any kind of alternative living there.
Yeah.
And then I'm Better Together Life on Instagram, and my wife is Better Together Wife. And we have an inconsistent podcast.
Okay.
Better Together Homestead. We're trying to get back on track with that.
All right. Well, hopefully, this is a podcast. People are listening to it in a podcast app. So pop over and find the Better Together Homestead podcast while you're at it.
Appreciate that, Ethan.
Yeah. Well, Beau Brotherton, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. It was so fun to chat. And I feel like we only scratched the surface, but you've got so much out there on your YouTube channel that people can just dig in and whatever little flavor they want to get.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I'll have to get invited again whenever we make that full transition and we can talk about all the decisions that we make at that time.
Yeah. Stay in touch.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much to Beau Brotherton for being a guest on the show today. And thank you so much to Precision Temp and Fotile for being guests on the show. You can find links to both of those sponsors in the show notes for this episode or on the show notes page over at thetinyhouse.net/274. You'll also find a complete transcript, some of my favorite videos from Beau and Kelly, and more. Again, that's thetinyhouse.net/274. Well, that's all for this week. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, and I'll be back next week with another episode of the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast.